Great job, Bob. Enlightening, frightening. We're going to move right on to the second panel here. We're finally going to let Bob Corell come on the screen and stay on the screen. Many of you probably know who Bob is. His full bio is in your program. He's a director here at the Climate Adaptation Center, and he is, among many other things, part of the team that won a Nobel Prize for the work on the Intergovernmental Panel Climate Change Report in 2007. And Stu Waterman is going to come and join in this conversation. Why don't you come on up, guys? Stu's a Chief Technology Officer for the Climate Adaptation Center. Again, an accomplished climate scientist with many other accomplishments to his name, which you should read about. And we're just going to have a conversation here.
And Rick, if you want to come, we have a seat for you. Is this on? Okay, where's Bobby?
Why don't you, while we're getting Bob on, why don't you sort of set it up and tell what Bob is going to address here?
Well, so Bob Corell, as you know, is a national treasure. He has been in science for, I don't know how many years, 50 at least. And I met Bob when he was the director of the geosciences for the National Science Foundation in Washington. And Bob was instrumental in having me go to NCAR as a director back in 1984. And I spent a lot of time in Washington during those years, and he was at the National Science Foundation. So we became good friends and began to understand that he and I had the same view of scientists and what scientists should do, and that our job was simply not looking at science and discovering new things, but our job was to go out and spread the information so it could be used. And so with that background, I see Bob there at the Tiki Bar. Hey, Bob.
Looks pretty festive where you are, Bob.
We gotta unmute you now. Unmute you.
Are you on mute, Bob?
We can't hear you. Is your mic unmuted, Bob? Hold on, we'll well, while they're getting that, we'll start talking a little bit about some of the things. Bob has spent years and years up in Iceland, Greenland, and I don't know how many expeditions he's done up there, but it's in the dozens. And he's an expert actually in the melting of the ice caps. And it's amazing that Greenland, most people don't realize this, but the top ice elevation is 5,000 feet. It's a mountain of ice. It's 5,000 feet thick. And with the warming climate, it's melting ever faster. There's enough ice in that, just in Greenland, to raise the sea level 20 feet. It should all happen. By the way, 1 million years ago, it did happen.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. There we go.
Bob, we're talking about Greenland, and we're talking about the melting up there.
I can hear you guys, but there's the technical problem. So I'm talking to you through my cell phone.
Okay.
But anyway, here we are. Bob, I'm going to turn it back to you three guys, and let's take a look. But before before you go, I want to make a few, I'll open it. First, you, Bob is giving you a really good, but I want to reinforce. Let's see, are you getting double? Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right, that's a little better.
Oh.
But before we go, I want to reinforce what Bob was saying. And there was a lovely little Leonardo da Vinci that says, knowing is not enough. It's time to act. And I think that's what this meeting is all about. In early 2019, the first of these, we really did focus on knowing. This one has to be on acting. So go ahead, Bob and Stu, fire away.
Well, we're still very fascinated by the attribution science aspect of this. It's a bit of a novelty to be able to consider even predicting some of these things. And I'm curious to hear what you think the impact of attribution science will be in the next decade or so.
Good. Could you throw up the first slide? Right now, I don't see the slide. For some reason, there's some switching going on.
Yeah, they're trying to get it up, Bob.
Oh, okay.
Well, look at that.
Uh-oh, there's trouble.
Yeah, that looks like
All
trouble.
right. Let's go to the next slide.
There you go.
That's perfect. And the real question that's often raised is any single event something that we call attributed, that but I think Bob made that pretty clear. It is the seriousness, the paleo record that depicts that something that might happen every 100 or 500 years now is occurring sort of back to back. So I think the many images that you all have seen of this character is that it's giving us a sense of the severity and the frequency at which was increased. But I want to talk about a couple things. First, Bob made note about a stable period that humankind has had, 10,000 years, where the temperature on global scale varied less than 0.7 degrees. But even within that, we had a little ice age and some warming period. So you could see that the Earth is a little like us, that we have to sit in a stable period or we're sick. And so the planet is already moving into this region where we're already at 1.2. And by my record, that's an increase of 0.5 degree centigrade, which approaches roughly 1 degree Fahrenheit. So issues like this, we're gonna see, but let's just take a pause for a minute and look what IPCC is doing. Go then, no, we missed the slide. Go to the next one if it,
Is this the one you want, Bob?
no, I want the table. There we are. This is just looking at the summary for policy making. If I were to give you this from the 1,000 pages that IPCC, these numbers would be in the hundreds and thousands. And the trend over the last 15 years is even the IPCC is fully aware and giving credence to the idea of attribution, because they say very high consequence or confidence. And that's 9 out of 10 chances. And you all can see this, but the trend over the last 15 years is that attribution science has really been taking over on the IPCC. So if we go back to the previous diagram,
So,
many of you out there in the business world know this idea of the value chain. And what we have done is stole that idea and have built it into this spectrum that take the attribution and brings it over to where society can support our actions. And so this diagram is intended to give you the step by step. So to get the attribution, you need to go back into the data chair, which sometimes we call it we are called it paleo. No, I don't know what's going on. There's something going on with sorry, slowing my speech down. But anyway, so that attribution getting back from paleo and data, asking key questions about the processes, and then beginning to model. And the word modeling here is key. And that's a scientific process. So out of that, we can peel out what are really the important scientific issues to us as people. And then, whoops, don't go, stay back. Now we move into the arena that Bob talked about. And there's an interesting story to go from scientific models to operational models. And it started in the meteorological community over the last 100 years, but really spun up over the last 50 years. And that's where we started using the word forecast. And that allows us to facilitate, contribute to as equal partners with all of you who come from many different disciplines, from business, from government, from other, and it's my view that those gathered here are in fact the front running idea behind CAC, that a partnership will make the difference. And of course, we always have to adapt and learn by doing. Can we go to the next slide? Next one. I don't know what's good. Boy, all right. Now, here's a very important. If I could use pretend the globe is here and the equator is down here, hot. The pole is cold. And historically, that difference has been substantial. And so the air and water wants to go to the pole, except when it gets there, can't go over the top, and it spins into this thing we call the jet stream. Because that temperature difference historically for 10,000 years has been pretty strong, it forces that to keep that thing in the high. Now, as Bob noted, the Arctic is warming 2 to 3 times, and it's accelerating. And what that did is reduce that difference, and that brings an instability. And you can see in this diagram that thing wiggles. And when it wiggles, the cold air can come down and hit our village, or when it's up, force the really warm air. Now, a little side story, if I could use my finger, but look at that place where it says low and it's gone down. I got out of an airplane to go to Washington from Miami, where I used to live. And normally that's a 2 3/4 hour flight. We went in an hour and 20 minutes. We got caught, and purposefully the pilot wanted to ride the really fast moving polar the jet stream. And so this is a fundamental piece in how it affects us. If we go to the next diagram, this is an example. This is a store. You can see the jet stream, like it wrapped itself around that part of Canada and the United States. And that little village of Linton, it was just extraordinary. It was about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And what that brings to me is another thing, that this whole new reality is that it is possible for the temperature and the humidity to be high enough that people die. And as many of you know, in the early part of the last decade, about 2003, for 2 months, the temperature combining the high humidity resulted in the incapacity of the human body to control its core temperature. And we call that the wet bulb indicator temperature. And there's a formula that gives you that. And we know now if that wet bulb temperature indicator gets above 79 degrees or anywhere up to about 90, the body can't sweat fast enough to keep our cold. And as a result, those parts of Europe were anywhere between 50 and 70,000 people who died during July and August, largely because Europe has not air conditioned their home, because similar things have happened here in the US, and we've had deaths, but they're in the hundreds. So I think one of the forecasts we're going to have to put in what Bob talked about is this wet bulb temperature forecast, so that we know that we should not spend 8 or 10 or 24 hours out in that challenging, because what happens is our kidney shuts down, our brain gene shut that down, and older people die. Not a good idea. So that's one of the things we ought to put into this next 30 to 50 years. And when you get around to this projection that Bob talked about, that the best estimate is that we're going to be around 2.5 or 6 by 2100. And remember, for the last 10,000 years, we never ever had more than 0.7 degrees plus or minus. So there is this urgency to deal with how we might get back to a more zero. And Bob talked about. But I want to bring in that there are some sleepers out. And if we look over the past 12,000 years, as we came from the most deepest part of the ice age up to the present, we had 4 events that we call meltwater pulses. The first of which, driven by natural process, occurred about 18,000 years ago. And what is incredible, several of us have dug into these meltwater events, which occur periodically. And the last, it appears that it came from the Arctic, and mainly from Greenland. And during, yeah.
I just want you to finish this thought.
Okay.
And then we'll take a question
Right.
before our break, okay?
Okay. But what scares me is that this amplification that Bob talked about, and it is likely to have led to one of these huge pelt water. And at that time, for 500 years. Every 100 year, we got 4.5 meters of the sea level. So if we hit one of these, it may come out of the blue. So with that, I'm turn it back and we can talk about questions and engage with all of you sitting there in the audience. Thank you. And
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob.
I want to apologize because I'm hearing my voice being delayed, and I don't know. We'll deal in another time.
Oh, hey, Bob, I think the reason is because it's connected on your cell phone and on your computer.
Yeah, but I killed one, so I don't know.
It's okay. We'll take a question. Does anyone
Right.
have a question?
I have a question. May I?
May.
Yeah.
So to the forecasting level, when Bob is talking about this indicator, he called the wet ball indicator. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Wet bulb indicator, and then something that could work its way into the forecast known as a wet bulb temperature. Is that actually happening? I mean, we do occasionally get new forecasting terms in ways that the heat index, for example.
That's the one, yeah.
So is it plausible that we will have something called the wet bulb temperature and people will start to understand that when it gets above a certain level, this is a new form of danger?
Yeah, I think it's actually a very old measurement we've been doing for centuries, I think. And really, it's when they say it's a dry heat and we all laugh, oh yeah, well, that's really exactly what's going on. And if it is a dry heat, you don't feel it as much as you do if it's a humid day and it's the same temperature. I mean, it's really what's going on.
So will this become commonplace in forecasting?
Yeah, so I think this is the problem, is that some of the nomenclature we use that we're all used to, relative humidity and temperature, are fine, but they don't give you really the essence of where we're heading in a climate warmed world. So the wet bulb temperature really is something we need to start talking about, and we need to start training our TV meteorologists to use that and educate the population about what that means.
Or a catchier phrase like fry point.
The fry point, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, that's a good observation. And I agree, totally. We have to get it into literature. Just a little path about the end of August. I got the temperature and humidity from about 30 sites in South Carolina, and their wet bulb was about 85. So the people were there, might have gone out, but they ran back to their air conditioners.
Well, thank you, Bob. We're going to see you in a little while this afternoon, and hopefully we'll have a little bit better. I have to say, I've never heard you speak so slowly to me.
I'm not speaking so.
I wish some years ago, Bob, when you were telling me what to do, that you spoke more slowly so I could understand what you were telling me.
No, that's not true.
Well, I think we should give a warm round of applause to Bob Corell.
Thank you.